Imagine a company that dominated an entire industry so completely that its name became synonymous with the very act of capturing a memory. That company was Kodak. At its peak, they owned 90% of the film market and 85% of camera sales in America.
Their business model was genius in its simplicity. Sell the camera cheap, make the real money on the film. Every birthday party, every wedding, every holiday snapshot meant another roll of film sold, and every roll of film sold meant another win for Kodak. Then came Steve Sasson. In 1974, Sasson was a fresh-out-of-college electrical engineer who had just joined Kodak's research division. His manager gave him what seemed like a small assignment: figure out whether a new type of image sensor could actually capture a photograph. After about a year of work, Sasson had built something that had never existed before: a camera with no film. It captured a black and white image using an electronic sensor, saved it to a standard cassette tape.
The image quality was terrible by any modern standard. It took 23 seconds just to save a single photo to the cassette tape. The resolution was 0.01 megapixels. For context, the camera in your pocket right now shoots at 12 megapixels minimum. But it worked, and Sasson knew exactly what it meant. This technology, given enough time, would eventually replace film entirely.
Sasson was convinced he had changed the world. He rushed to show the executives, expecting a hero's welcome for his revolutionary filmless photography.
But when he stepped into the boardroom, the atmosphere wasn't one of celebration. It was one of cold, calculated skepticism. The room went quiet. The executives studied the device. And then came the response that would echo through business schools for decades. "That's cute," one executive said, "but don't tell anyone about it." Now, here's the part that most people get wrong. Kodak's executives were not stupid. They were not blind. In fact, internal studies showed that Kodak correctly predicted the rise of digital photography and estimated it would take 10 to 15 years to displace film. They ran the numbers. They saw the future coming. And then they made a calculated decision to do nothing, because launching digital photography wouldn't just disrupt the industry, it would cannibalize their own profits. Every digital camera sold was a roll of film unsold. So they sat on it. They locked the digital camera patents in a vault. They continued pouring money into film. And every competitor who watched Kodak invent the future saw something Kodak refused to see: an opportunity. Through the 1990s, Kodak tried to adapt. They launched digital cameras. They built one of the world's first photo-sharing websites. They made acquisitions, hired new leadership, restructured the company 4 times. But every attempt at transformation was strangled by the same problem. The boardroom was still dominated by people who had built entire careers selling film. And changing the culture of 145,000 employees turned out to be nearly impossible. Film sales peaked in the year 2000. Then they fell off a cliff. Between 2000 and 2012, Kodak's revenue collapsed from nearly $14 billion to barely $6 billion. They laid off 47,000 people. They sold off divisions, patents, entire pieces of the company. On January 19th, 2012, Eastman Kodak Company, 131 years old, filed for bankruptcy. The patents they had locked in a vault, those same 1,000-plus digital imaging inventions, were eventually sold for $525 million. Steve Sasson, the engineer who built the first digital camera, was awarded the National Medal of Technology by President Obama in 2009, 3 years before the company he built it for ceased to exist. When asked later about the executive who told him to keep quiet about his invention, Sasson was philosophical. He said, "They were very supportive of research. They just didn't want to have anything to do with it." This is what strategists call the innovator's dilemma. The better you are at your current business, the more profitable it is, the more people depend on it, the harder it becomes to walk away from it, even when you can see something better coming. Nokia saw smartphones coming and stayed loyal to hardware. Blockbuster saw streaming coming and protected its late fees. Borders saw e-commerce coming and trusted its bookstores. Every one of them could see the wave. None of them could make themselves swim toward it. The companies that survive disruption are almost never the market leaders. They're the hungry challengers with nothing to lose, the ones who don't have a film business to protect, a legacy to defend, or 145,000 employees depending on the old way of doing things. Kodak's story is not really about photography. It's about what happens when the very thing that made you great becomes the thing that destroys you. It's about how difficult it is for any person, any company, any institution to choose an uncertain future over a comfortable present.
If this story made you think about a company you know, about an industry you work in, about a decision you've been putting off, share it with someone who needs to hear it. It might be the most valuable 6 minutes they spend this week.
Next time on Empire and Ruin, the story of a man who built the world's most famous fast food brand by stealing it from the two brothers who invented it. Subscribe so you don't miss it.